Hello, everybody. Welcome to the KAPOW radio show on the KAPOW radio show network. My name is Paul.
And this is Miss KAPOW.
And tonight we're going to start a series, part one of a series, and we're going to call it Social Masonry. Tonight is Social Masonry part one. And it is about the Illuminati, the globalists, the elitists, the shadow government of the world, these men and women who are very rich, who are controlling everything, the media, the finances, almost everything in your life, and what they intend to do.
Right.
Correct?
Yep.
So as the weeks progress, we are going to take documents, alleged documents from these Illuminati masters and people, and actually read them.
Mm-hmm. And it would be interesting because as we go through these different letters or documents, and you can see their intentions, then you can see the things that are happening in the world is actually because that's bringing us into the New World Order.
Perfect. That's exactly what we're trying to get across. Mm-hmm. We're not saying that these documents are true or factual.
Yeah, or they're going to, come to pass type of thing.
Yes. Or at their prophecy, their Illuminati prophecy, or that they're even written by insiders of the Illuminati. Mm-hmm. We don't know, but it matters little. And I'll tell you why it matters little. It's the content, the arrogance of what was written, the intent is what we need to be aware of. And it's come to my attention, and I've done this myself, where I've repeated phrases from, say, Agenda 21. Or I've repeated phrases that I've heard somebody talk about the Elders of Zion, right? The protocols of the Elders of Zion, without actually ever reading those things myself.
Right.
So I have taken the time to actually read all they're right in front of me. I've read them, and we are going to help those who haven't read them, who don't have the time to read this kind of nonsense. That's why you got people like us. We read this kind of nonsense, and we're going to read and discuss this stuff with you. All right? Does that make sense? So that's what this show is going to be about, social masonry, and the next several shows are going to be focused on different documents from the Illuminati, and we're going to read those and discuss those with you. It's interesting, is it not?
I think so.
Okay. Just this last week, from Thursday till Saturday, the Bilderberg group met. And the Bilderberg group, as most of you know, is a group of businessmen and women and elitists and politicians and, the muckety-mucks that get around and they get together, and they've done this for years, and they discuss where they're going to go with the globe.
Right.
And where it's going to go. They used to be very much a shadow organization, and then they've got it exposed, and everybody knows about the Bilderberg now, the Bilderberg group, and so it's not a big deal so much anymore. They're not hidden, but it's amazing when you look at the list of the people who go to these meetings.
Yeah, they're the muckety muck.
Yeah, in fact, Hillary Clinton years ago went to one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was invited to Bilderberg years ago. All right. So here's an article here from the LB Times, Bilderberg 2016. We can expect desperate lobbying against Brexit from big business. I'll explain to you what that means, but let me read this. As the EU referendum looms, a great council of war is gathering. The chairman of the Bilderberg group has made his way to the highest hill above Dresden, okay? So 140 or so of the most powerful pro-European business leaders and politicians are going to be at this 5-star hotel, all right? The annual 3-day Bilderberg conference kicks off Thursday. It already happened. And the mood, they say, is going to be a grim one there in Dresden when they meet. The heads of Google, Shell, BP, Deutsche Bank, will be there, and Brexit will be top of the agenda. The Bilderberg Group has been nurturing the EU to life since the 1950s, and now they see their creation under dire threat. Okay? let me stop there. One of the things that we will learn as we go through this series is that the plan for globalization has been in the process for hundreds of years. This ain't some quick overnight thing. They, when I say they, it's not just some shadow pronoun. When I say they, I'm talking about the globalists, the elitists, the Kabbalists, the Jewish Kabbalist bankers, the Rothschilds, these high-ranking people. It's all been planned for hundreds of years. And I can say that with great confidence because when you read the documents that were written 100 years ago, they actually say it'll take 100 years or so to do it. But you can see how their plan has come to fruition in a lot of areas.
And this isn't from human wisdom. This is from the stars, the angels, the powers and the principalities that the Bible talks about.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, because you read some of these documents and something, oh, that's hoaxy, or you can't prove that, or like, the protocols of the Elders of Zion, that's refuted as anti-Semitic document. It's against Jews. It causes Jew hating and all this stuff. Regardless, and there's proof on both sides that it's real and not real. But what matters is the content. This was written by someone, and this kind of information is common. The core of the information is common between all these documents. So somebody is getting this stuff downloaded from the fallen angels.
Right.
Why it's being leaked out? It could be a control thing. It could be a fear thing. Satan's a huge liar. We all know he's a big liar. But the thing is there some truth in their plans because we've actually seen it happen and what they're doing. That's what we're trying to do, is make this
well, it's just like the Tower of Babel. Their intention was to rise up into the heavens and make sure that God would never do what he did by, destroying the earth. However, that never came to pass because God squelched it. And then we had the, people scattered everywhere.
Yes, but their intention was to get that portal to heaven.
Exactly.
So let me go back to this article here. So the Bilderberg people, they're all meeting, and they're all up in arms about the Brexit, and I'll explain that. They say, like, here's Goldman Sachs has 2 senior representatives on Bilderberg's steering committee. Right? I don't care what their names are. I'm not going to read their names. They say that because they are some of the key funders of the group, along with BP. And they've been pumping in a substantial 6-figure sum into what they call a Remain campaign. The Remain campaign is they're trying to get Britain, the United Kingdom, to stay within the EU. So they have this big campaign. Goldman Sachs doesn't spend money lightly. So the Remain campaign is clearly close to whatever they have instead of a heart. Right? Okay. So the idea for any kind of pushback against globalization is a horrific one to these people. And that's what's happening. Okay? An integrated EU with the city at its center is a key building block in a globalized world. And its potential loss is a huge concern for the high priests of globalization. The prospect of Brexit frightens me, admits Ken Jacobs, the head of Lazard and another member of Bilderberg's inner circle. This article ends with not much frightens these people, only 2 things: sunlight and Brexit.
Wow.
All right. So
that speaks volumes.
It does. So we understand that these globalists have met this past week to discuss our future. They control all the finances, all the banking, all the media. That's a fact. We know that. What is Brexit? Brexit is something that would happen if Britain left the EU. Brexit stands for Britain exit. Brexit. Britain exit. if the people of Britain vote for Brexit, that'll be this summer, it will not only be a historic victory for Euro skeptics, but it will transform this nation forever. Because what they're doing, it's like they're removing themselves from the European Union. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the UK is set to hold an in-out referendum this summer whether there should be a British exit or Brexit from the EU. And momentum is growing behind the EU exit campaign, which wants to end central control by Brussels and give Britain the freedom to manage its own affairs, right?
Right.
But the Illuminati, the Bilderberg group, these globalists, including their own Prime Minister David Cameron, does not want that.
Of course.
They want to stay in the EU. They want Britain to stay in the EU. And, of course, it's all the money trail.
Right.
You can follow the trade and money trail. So that's what that's all about. That's not what this show's about, but I thought I would just explain that while we're here.
Yeah, because you can tell for them to do that would upset the whole one world government.
Yes, it's
agenda.
like that one guy says, any kind of pushback against globalization is horrific to them. What? You're pushing back on the New World Order? I mean, they planned this stuff for centuries. Like the protocols of the elders of Zion, it says right in there that they've planned this for the last 100 centuries.
Yep.
You know, they planned this since the time of Christ, which I think is interesting, that after Christ's death and resurrection, that's when these Kabbalists, this Jewish magic took over.
Because they knew their time was short.
Yes, yes. And to me, it kind of coincides with Revelation about the dragon.
Sure.
Chasing after the offspring of the woman with great wrath. The time is short. And so they've been planning this whole thing. And we are at a point in history where you can really see the fruition of this.
Amen.
A lot. So anyway, a lot of us here, you know, through podcasts and through YouTube videos and things about the Illuminati. We hear the terms. We hear about their agenda. But we haven't actually read these documents ourselves and seen it for ourselves. And so that's what we're going to do on this show right now. And there are numerous documents purporting to be written by Illuminati insiders, so to speak, or informers, or just blatant, arrogant, writers. Whether real or not, I don't know. But I do know that the content of them is very evil. It's very satanic. And I think that's very important for all of us to realize what their intent is.
Right.
Like Ms. KAPOW says, right? So I want to make it really clear that our goal here on KAPOW Radio Show, on this series, that our goal is not to create fear porn. I'm not. If you want to listen to fear and get all jacked up and scared, there's hundreds of podcasts out there that get you all scared.
That's right.
That's not our intent to create something. Oh, this is sexy.
No.
This is scary.
Our intention is to educate you.
Yes, because you don't have time to read all this junk. So we don't want to create fear porn, but awareness of what some of these documents actually say.
And this is also to prevent you from falling into the traps and the snares of the enemy.
Yes, absolutely. To give you awareness, to go, wow, this is what they're doing with the media. This is what they do with banking, with finances, with debt, with credit. Oh, man, it's big. And the media.
The media
everything
is there
you hear.
to brainwash you, you know, to dull your senses.
Oh, my Lord.
What's right and wrong.
And I don't want to get off topic here, but this last week, Ms. KAPOW and I have been watching some YouTube videos. And I got to tell you, there's some people out there that are literally, I want to say insane, but they're under a hypnotic delusion. They're crazy. These flat earth people are absolutely insane. And what's sad is that they have been bewitched. They actually believe and defend what they're talking about like if it's truth, even though it's so ridiculous. There's something wrong. And it's a huge phenomenon right now. It just grew out of nowhere in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, type it in. flat Earth and find out yourself.
It's weird. There are some weird people. And what's strange is Christians, well, quote unquote, ex-gen type of people have gotten, all the Nephilim people and UFO alien crystal skull chaser people have gotten involved in this. Not all of them, but some of them have. And they're tying in the Bible to this flat earth thing, and it's bizarre.
Yeah.
It is bizarre. The other thing is the Mandela effect. Mandela effect. People are seeing things. I grew up watching the Brady Bunch and never saw these shows before. It's CERN is altering our reality.
See, they're giving more power to that thing than it really has.
Oh, yeah. They're saying that CERN has created a parallel universe, and there's Brady Bunch shows, the Brady Bunch Happy Hour or whatever it was called, that they've never seen or grew up with. But
now they're materializing.
Yeah, and they're playing it on YouTube. And we were watching this thinking, perhaps if you did some research and contacted the studios, perhaps this was something that they put out in a season or a pilot, and because it sucks so bad, they pulled it. Mm-hmm. It's what is it?
It's crazy.
Oh, what is it? Occam's razor. Mm-hmm. The Occam's razor says, usually the simplest answer is usually the right one. Mm-hmm. The simplest is the right one. And so when you go into flat earth, they have to do all this stuff to make it work. And the Mandela effect, you have to do all the CERN is created a parallel universe. And okay, I don't want to digress here. No. All right. So we don't want to create fear. Now, we know that many of you listening to KAPOW, many of the KAPOW listeners are Christians. You're biblical Christians who believe in the Lord Jesus Christ as God made flesh. Mm-hmm. And you've believed in that, and you believed in his salvation, and you have accepted his spirit of holiness, and your lives have been changed. For you, this kind of information, not only is it not new to you, you're familiar with it, but for you, this is just something for you to be aware of how Satan works and what he's doing, because every day we're realizing the depth of evil that we didn't see the day before. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, I didn't even realize that was so crazy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what I just talked about on YouTube. Mm-hmm. That's not right, folks. Mm-mm. The Mandela effect is demonic. The flat earth theory is demonic. These people are under a delusion. They actually believe, their minds have been altered. The Bible says once they reject truth, they'll be handed over to what they call a reprobate mind. Mm-hmm. God sends the delusion. You understand? God himself sends the delusion.
Yep.
They're deluded. And you can see it every day. So as Christians, you're not deluded. You're children of the light. You understand this stuff. What we're about to talk about is to give you awareness, more awareness. You can help others. Those who might be listening to my voice who got here because the title Social Masonry piqued your interest, that are not born-again believers, that have not accepted Jesus Christ as God made flesh for their salvation, you're flapping in the wind. You are the target, you are the victim, and you're going to go down with these guys. You're going to go down with these guys. That's not where you want to be.
No.
It's not where you want to be, all right? That's a horrible thing. So we're going to take a different document every week, and we're going to read it, and we're going to discuss it. We're going to analyze it in biblical terms for you. And today we're going to start off with this document called The New World Order, The New World Order's Letter to Every Citizen of the World, Warning Resistance is Futile. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, I'll give you a little background on that. We're going to start off with that. And then throughout the weeks, not necessarily in this order, but we're going to go and we're going to talk about the 21 goals of the Illuminati and the Committee of 300. We're going to talk about that one. That one's a very interesting document. And that was written circa 1993. The letter that we're going to read today was written circa 1999. All right? How many of you heard of Agenda 21? Agenda 21, Agenda 21.
I have.
And we even talk about it. Well, I sat down and, we both sat down and had to read the thing. So we're going to talk about Agenda 21 and what that really means for you, and then give you key terms to hear when you hear these terms, politicians or your boss at work or your mayor or talk about these things. You're going to go, oh, that's from the devil. How about the Georgia Guidestones? Mm-hmm. We'll talk about the Georgia Guidestones and what that means. Everything's in there. And then the coup de grace of all the Illuminati documents. The coup de grace, in my opinion, is the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. Mm-hmm. It's a interesting history. Like I said, a lot of the protocol people have said it's just anti-Semitic and this and that. And they say it's a hoax. And I don't know. It's pretty heavy. Mm-hmm. It's a huge, long document. We'll have to probably take a couple of weeks to go through it. But once you go through this, your eyes will go, what the heck? And it was written, it was written in 1857 or 1858 or something like that. I think it was first published in 1901. So well over 100 years ago. And when you read it, you'll go, oh my God, this is the crap that's happening now. Mm-hmm. Henry Ford, 40 years after it was written or published, Henry Ford even looked at this and said, this stuff is going on right now.
Mm-hmm. See, and back in that time, it was a new awakening for the supernatural, for the occult.
That's right.
And so, that door right there was opened, and now you've got all this stuff coming to pass.
It was a very spiritual. It was a spirituality was really big in the late 1800s here in America. Mm-hmm. Really big. Yeah, theosophy and all that stuff.
Yep, that's right.
So you can see this stuff coming. So that's. I hope everybody's excited, like I am, to read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Well, let's get started.
Okay, let's talk. We're going to read and talk about this letter. Now, I got to do some little background real quick. It's called the New World Order's Letter to Every Citizen of the World, warning resistance is futile. Apparently, this document began to circulate around the autumn of 1999. So we did have the internet in 1999. Hadn't been around very long. It was very, very archaic back then. But that's when it started circulating. Nobody knows who wrote it. Apparently, it's addressed to everybody in America. The theme is that it's useless to resist a world takeover, and that the program is in its final stages, this and that. It's anonymous, but it comes off like it's written by an insider, basically mocking everybody else, saying this is what's going down and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
A lot of people don't believe this is true. They believe it's just, somebody wrote something. I don't know. Okay. It's hard for me logically to think that some insider, some Bilderberg kind of guy would say, hey, I think I'm going to pen a letter and put it on the internet, so everybody knows what we're doing. That does sound stupid, because the whole art of war and being Machiavellian is being secreted in the shadows. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is what's contained in this letter is definitely from Satan. Mm-hmm. It's a satanic agenda. And I think it has some validity because of that. And keeping in mind that Satan is a liar and he lies about everything does not mean that what we're about to read is absolutely true. But there's some truth in it in regard that a lot of this stuff from 1999 to where we're at now has definitely happened and is happening. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's not the only document like this. I mean, there's a lot of these documents that have the same feel to them.
Right.
Okay. So these people are getting downloaded this nonsense from the fallen ones.
Well, I think it's meant to create fear.
Yes.
So,
because these documents don't offer any solution or any help. It's just like, hey,
if they can give you the idea that they have all this power to inflict this stuff on you, that they're all seeing eye, they know everything about you, la 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 la, then of course you're going to be afraid.
Yeah. So you join up or die.
Mm-hmm. So then you succumb to whatever they say because you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want your head lopped off and all that kind of stuff. But if you're in Christ Jesus, you don't have to be afraid.
That's
in fact,
right.
it's a command.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid.
Yeah.
Fear not.
Fear not. And that we're not ignorant of the wiles or the tricks, the little arrows of the devil. We're not ignorant of that. And that's what this is. We're not being ignorant. Okay. Shall I go, Ms. KAPOW?
I wish you would, Derek.
I'm going to go first, and then Ms. KAPOW will take the next section. I'll take the next section, and so forth.
All right.
All right. So, okay, folks, listen up. It starts off with, dearest citizen of the world.
That would be you.
That would be you and me. Quote, I believe the time has come to reveal to you some of the perplexities you have faced in recent decades. It is well for you to understand some of these things so that you might know how to behave in the new order now taking shape on earth. We want you to be able to become fully involved and integrated into our society. After all, this is for your best interest if you will do. All right? First of all, it is well that you understand some of our purposes so that you may fully cooperate. I cannot tell you the hard times you will face if you resist us. We have ways of dealing with resistors. I'm only telling you this now because, since it is much too late to turn things around, the days of putting a stop to us have long since passed. We have full control of the earth and its finance, along with the major media propaganda, and there is simply no way any nation or power can defeat us. We have eyes in every level of government, in every nation of the world. We know what is being planned, for our ears and eyes are ever present. State secrets are fully known to us. China recently accused the media in the U.S. of lying about Kosovo. Oh, you silly people, of course we lie. In this way, we can keep the people unbalanced and always facing controversy, which is very helpful to us. Have you not seen the talk show Spectacle? Some of you believe we are the liberals and the good people are the conservatives. In reality, both serve our purpose. Each camp merely serves with the stamp of our approval, but they are not allowed to present the real issues. By creating controversy on all levels, no one knows what to do. So in all of this confusion, we go ahead and accomplish what we want with no hindrance. Consider the President of the United States. Let me break here. The President of the United States in 1999 was Bill Clinton. Okay. Consider the President of the United States. Even though he regularly breaks every known check on his power, no one can stop him. He goes ahead and does whatever we want him to do anyway. The Congress has no power to stop him. He does what we want, since he knows if he does not, because of his rather dark character, we can have him removed in a moment's time. Is not that a rather brilliant strategy on our part? You cannot take us to court because you can't see us, and the courts are our servants as well. We run everything, yet you do not know who to attack. I must say this hidden hand is wonderfully devised and without any known historical precedent on this scale. We rule the world, and the world cannot even find out who is ruling them. This is truly a wonderful thing. In our media, we present before you exactly what it is we want you to do. Then, as if in a flash, our little servants obey. We can send American or European troops to wherever we like, whenever we like, and for whatever purpose we like, and you dutifully go about our business. How much more evidence do you need? We can make you desire to leave your homes and family and go to war merely at our command. We only need to present some nonsense to you from the president's desk or on the evening news, and we can get you all fired up to do whatever we like. You can do nothing but what we put before you.
Wow.
You're up, Ms. KAPOW, under your vain resistance.
Got it.
You want this, or you want that?
Oh, yeah, I know you.
Okay.
Am I ready?
Yeah.
Oh. When any of you seek to resist us, we have ways of making you look ridiculous, as we have done with your militia movement. We have delighted to use this movement to show the world how impotent any resistance is. They look so silly marching around with their guns as if they were some match for our military. Look at what we did near Waco. Did the Davidians' little store of weapons help them? We have generously taxed you and used that money to make such sophisticated weapons you can in no way compete. Your own money has served to forge the chains we bind you with, since we are in control of all money. Some of you think you may escape by buying some land in the country and growing a garden. Let me remind you that you still pay us ground rent. Oh, you may call it property taxes, but it still goes to us. You see, you need money no matter what you do. If you fail to pay your ground rent to us, we will take your land and sell it to someone who will pay us. Do you think we cannot do this? And with your ground rent, we pay for the indoctrination of your children in public schools that we have set up. We want them to grow up well trained into the system of our thinking. Your children will learn what we want them to learn, when we want them to learn it, and you pay for it through your ground rent. Those funds are also used for other projects we have in mind, and our contractors are paid handsomely for their work. You may doubt that we own your children or have control, but you will find that we do. We can declare that you abuse your children when you spank them and have them confiscated. If they do not show up for school indoctrination, we can accuse you of neglect, thereby giving them to us. Your children are not yours. They are ours. You must inoculate them. You must bring them to our hospitals if we decree, or we will take them from you. You will know this, and we know this. Through our electronic commerce, we are able to see where you are, what you are buying, and how much you have to buy things with. Where do you suppose we come up with our monthly financial statistics? Through the internet and other sources, we can even know how you think and what you say. It is not specially important to us what you believe, as long as you do what we say. Your beliefs are nonsense anyway. But if you think you have a following, and we perceive that you might be somewhat dangerous to our agenda, we have ways to deal with you. We have a paradox box of mischief with which to snare you. We can have you in court so long you will never get out. We can easily drain away all your assets over one pretext or another. We have an inexhaustible fund with which to draw from to pay our lawyers, and these lawyers are paid by you in the form of taxes. You do not have this vast supply of wealth. We know how to divide and conquer. Have we not brought down rulers of countries through our devices? Do you think your tiny self will be any match for us? Wow.
To think that this was written in 1999, or circulated in 1999, that was before mandatory vaccinations. That just is a recent phenomenon. And it says right there, your children are going to be ours. You know, we'll force the vaccinations, we'll force them into the medical thing. And then property tax, what they call it, land. I forgot what he called it, but that's interesting because you really think about it. Oh, I own my home. Try not paying your property tax to see what happens to your abode.
Yep.
And that goes to public school system. Oh, yeah. And if your kid don't go to school, we'll come and get them. You're the criminal.
Ground rent.
Ground rent. Yes, ground rent. Yeah. That's very interesting. Okay, I'm going to read the next section called Your Vain Organizations. And let us consider your religions and the moral majority. Remember Jerry Falwell and all those guys were happening in 1999. The moral majority is neither moral nor is it in the majority. We have delighted to use this wet noodle of a movement to make ridiculous the Christian faith. That's exactly what it did. The silly men who run that organization always end up with egg on their faces. We have always put them in defense of themselves, as we have so successfully done with the NRA. We can make it seem by our media propaganda that the National Rifle Association is actually the new radical attackers. Have we not turned the American conservative movement on its ear? If it serves our purposes, we can use the conservatives to turn the liberals on the ear. It makes no difference to us, but it serves to make you believe there are two sides struggling for their particular position. This helps to make things seem fair and free, since everyone has a voice. Actually, there's only one side now, with all kinds of masks on. But you are unable to penetrate our purposes. You see, we can do whatever we like, and you can do nothing about it. Does it not seem reasonable that you simply obey and serve us? Otherwise, you get eaten up in the resistance you suppose will liberate you. You cannot be liberated. Imagine how you can. We supply your fuel for your cars. We can turn it off whenever we like, claiming that there's some sort of fuel shortage. What if your car breaks down? You cannot get parts for it without us. We supply all the money you use. At any whim of our desire, we can stop the money supply or cause a complete crash altogether. We can then order the president to declare all money worthless and that we will have to have new money. All of your stashes of cash will go up in smoke in a moment's time. Don't you need food? If necessary, we could cause a trucker strike, which would stop deliveries of food to your local store. We could starve you whenever we like. You only have food because we have provided it to you from our table. During the Great Depression, we controlled the food. We heaped mountains of food behind fences and let it rot. The hungry were then made to work in our labor camps, and though there was enough or more to feed them. Do you really think you can beat us? You say you will hoard gold coins, so you will still have money in the time of the crash. We simply pass a law which outlaws the possession of gold, as we have done in the past. If we find gold in your possession, we would simply confiscate it and put you in prison for breaking the law. While in prison, you would be required to work in one of our prison industries. We have so formed a picture of the labor camps and our prisons these days that no one seems to object to them. We tell people that murderers should pay for their own keep. No one seems to consider that we have the power to put tomato growers there also. We can pass laws that prohibit gardens and then make up some scientific reason why you may only buy food from our sources. If someone sees you growing tomatoes, they will report you to us, and then we will have you in our fields working for us. Oh, silly nationalists, there is no escape for you. For since long before you were born, we were planning your capture. Your teachers and ministers have been forming your thoughts for us for generations now. You have no idea how to pull out of our influence short of suicide. Go ahead and commit suicide. It will only help us to deal with the excessive population. You cannot hurt us, find us, or even imagine what we're up to. I am throwing you these few crumbs only so that you may, if you have a little good sense, obey and follow your orders.
Wow. The next section is on your controlled mind. Run Hollywood. The movies such as The Terminator and Armageddon, along with a great host of others, were simply created to get you thinking according to our directions. You have been made to delight in violence, so that when we send you off to kill some bad man we have put before you, you move without a whimper. We have placed violent arcade games in your malls to prepare your mind in the art of battle. We have made you to view our armies and police as the good forces, and you submit to things that were unthinkable just a few decades ago. Our artful programs are all designed to help you submit and even help the New World Order. Star Trek and other creations have taught you to simply obey orders from the new international rulers. Oh, silly people, you thought you were being entertained while you were actually being educated. Dare I use the words brainwashed or mind control? By the way, have you seen the new Star Wars? What a masterpiece of mental manipulation. Humans confer with nondescript beasts of all shapes and sizes, and they confer in English. I wonder where those space beasts learned English. Oh, the simpleness of the mind of the citizen. He never considers he is being taken into a fairyland. We have placed advertisements for Star Wars almost everywhere you go. You will find them in Walmart, Kmart, Taco Bell, and a host of other institutions of commerce. There is something we want you to learn from this movie. Or perhaps it could be said, there is something we do not want you to learn from episodes 4 through 6. Either way, we will have what we want in the whole affair. Of course, to keep you off guard, we have instructed our elected officials to appear to be correcting the evil of our violence. President Clinton is now speaking against violence in Hollywood movies. This will not solve the problem, but will only make the people believe the problem is being worked on. Sex and violence are the very best powers to use to help us gain our advantage. How the people loathe to give up their sex and violence, so we place all they want before them. In this way, we keep them so occupied they do not have the integrity or brain power to deal with the really important matters which are left entirely in our hands. President Clinton has been very helpful to us. We knew of what character he was before we placed him as president. Exposing him was very helpful in adjusting the moral habits of the youth downward. This is to our advantage. Even more agreeable to us were the vain efforts of those who thought they would remove him against our will. He is useful to us, and he will not be removed by anyone until we are ready to have him removed. Excuse me if I seem to be mocking your system of beliefs, but they are rather outdated. Have you no eyes to see your vain liberties and your righteous pontifications are nothing before us? You can only do what we say you can do. We remove presidents when we are ready, and the leader we set up will be there until it serves us to have another. At that time, we place our proposed leader before you, and you vote for what we want. In that way, we give you the vain voting exercise in the belief you had something to do with placing your president in the office. We use the nations for what we want to use them for. Everyone knows that they must yield to us or die. Fortunately, we have had few resistors such as Saddam Hussein and Slobodan Milosevic that have been helpful in showing the world leaders what we will do to them if they do not submit. There is only one glory in following our proposals and doing what we say. If one does not, there will be such a sad and tragic result. I would really have you spread of such an end. But then again, if you are not spared, I would really have you spared of such an end. But then again, if you are not spared, it is of no consequence to us. We will use you to alleviate some of the overpopulation problem.
Man, once again, written in 1999. Man, and talk about video games and violence and all this stuff. I'm going to read the next section called Your Silly Rebellion Against Our Dominion, but not before a silly commercial break.
Yeah.
I just finished reading Demons in My Marriage Bed, a true story of spiritual warfare, written by Paul and Linda Villanueva, and I highly recommend it to all Kingdom Against Powers of Wickedness radio listeners. This book is about saving your marriage from destruction. It is a true and vivid account about adultery, witchcraft, curses, spells, and evil spirits, all attempting to dismantle and annihilate lives. This is an excellent training manual for building a stronger marriage by exposing the tactics your enemies use against you. Ultimately, the book glorifies the transformational power of God through submission to the Lord Jesus Christ, and that is a good thing. Demons in My Marriage Bed from all online digital retailers, such as Amazon.com and Apple iBooks, FifthHookMedia.com. That is FIFTHOOK Media.com. Demons in My Marriage Bed, a true story of spiritual warfare, changed the way my spouse and I conduct spiritual battle, and has increased our alertness level to the tactics of Satan. Please do not be fooled that such things cannot happen to you. Rather, get prepared and become the spiritual warrior needed to overcome in these perilous times in which we all live. God bless you all.
Okay, we are back. We are back. I just found out the Illuminati, the elitists, the globalists were listening to this show. They rushed out and they bought all our books.
Yeah.
Demons in Our Marriage Bed, and they're all reading them. And they're like, wow, we thought we were messed up. Your silly rebellion against our dominion. Okay, some of you have thought you could stop us by placing a bomb in one of our abortion clinics or in a government building? Silly souls, how can that hurt us? All that does is give us an example to use so that we might place more controls and heavy burdens on the population. We love it when you rebel and blow something up. You are a reason for making more laws against those things which might contribute to your freedom from us. If someone did not blow something up on occasion, we would have no justification in placing more hedges around you. Can't you see how impossible it is for you to resist us? The more you wriggle, the more we squeeze. Our kingdom is the kingdom of money. Excuse me, but I must confess that we are the rulers of the kingdom of non-money. You must see the humor in that statement. We have given you a piece of paper or some numbers on a computer screen that we have termed money. It is backed up by nothing and proven by nothing but what you say it is. We create it from nothing. We print it. We loan it. We give it its value. We take its value away. All things that have to do with money are in our hands. Think of it. What is it that you can do against us without money? If you try to resist, we could cancel your credit or freeze your accounts. Your cash is easily confiscated. We have made so many rules in the realm of living that you cannot live without money. Camp on government land and you must move in 2 weeks. You cannot grow much of a garden in 2 weeks. Many of our wilderness trails are entered by permit only. We have passed laws that we do not allow you to live in trailers over a certain period without moving to another location. Have you not thought it ridiculous that we will allow a man to live in a box full time, but we will not allow a man to live in an RV full time unless he is at a tax-paying campground? Interesting. All right. You are up next with our unfathomable mysteries.
Oh, right, T. Our recent war in Serbia has many purposes to it, but we do not speak of these things openly. We let the talk show hosts blather all sorts of nonsense, but none of it touches the core. First of all, there is a wealth of natural resources in Kosovo that we have complete control of. Kosovo has large supplies of uranium in its soil, and uranium is very helpful to our regime. Also, it suits us to keep all such minerals out of the hands of potential enemies. Milosevic has not been helpful in giving those resources into our hands, so we simply make things difficult for him until he does. Even now, victory over Yugoslavia is imminent. We are reducing that proud nation to the very level of humility we require from all people. After the war, if Mr. Milosevic does not sufficiently humble himself, we will take him to the World Court charged with war crimes. We made up that term, rather ingenious, don't you think? How could there be such a thing as a war crime? The very nature of war is that the rules are off. It is so entertaining to watch the nations try to fight war according to the laws we have placed before them. The only war crime there really is only involves the crime of being against us. Anyone against us is violating our law. As you have seen, when someone is for us, we do not care what they do. Was not Nelson Mandela a bomb-toting terrorist who killed many of his enemies? We made a hero of him. We observe no laws when it comes to war. We do what we want, when we want, and where we want. We can starve nations to death. We can ruin civilizations and other horror for which we would take our enemies to court. Look at our example. We bomb Serbia out of its wits, bomb Kosovans out of their homes, poison their rivers and streams, turn off their electricity, making a grand crisis in that country, and then we masterfully make it appear it is all Mr. Milosevic's fault, and he needs to go to court for it. It is the same way we made our inferno at Waco look like Mr. Koresh's fault. Then there was a chief villain, Saddam, with all of his weapons of mass destruction. Bad men are a dime a dozen, and we conjure one up whenever it suits us. There is really quite funny when you think of it. I am not one who is usually given to humor, but I do catch myself laughing sometimes at the absolute absurdity of the notions we place before you, and you readily accept it. Do you wonder that the leaders of the world tremble at our presence? They know they have no power except the power we give them. We have no fear of Russia or China, for we are already in full control of their system of things. China knows that we can freeze any number of its corporations in America and all of its capital at the stroke of a pen. We want you to be in the system. When you are buying a house, we not only receive the tax revenue to use for our purposes, but we gain large increases from the internet on the loan. Interest. Thank you. You may pay for your house 2 or 3 times over the interest alone. The interest is also taxed, which is again placed for use in those sectors of influence we choose. We do not want you to escape free, and that is why we have made it as we have. You are our property. We will not permit you to buy or sell unless you submit to our mark of authority. If you go to court against us, we will wear you out there, and in the end, you will lose. If you use violence, we will end up having you in one of our labor camps, more specifically called prison industries. You need our money, our entertainments, our fuel, our utilities to function. If you don't have them, you feel deprived. By this, you are made to yield to our will. Sincerely, your globalist friend.
Wow. You know, I apologize for not knowing the quote of who said this, but apparently there was a Roman emperor when talking about the people, the sheeple in Rome, said, just give them bread and their circuses, and they'll be fine. Just give them their entertainment, their food and their entertainment, and they'll be fine. So that's, when you're asleep, when you're just a sheep, and you have no idea. I mean, like that last thing you read about loans and, buying a house. And, I mean, my gosh, getting in that kind of debt and just paying for it over and over again with the interest. And, anybody who's tried to get themselves out of debt, even just credit card debt, or cars that you own and or any kind of financial problems that you got into, how difficult it is to dig out, and it's a real prison, and that's right where these Satanists want you. They want you in that control. I mean, even Jesus says, "Oh no man, nothing."
That's right.
And I know it's almost impossible in today's world, but we have to try to be less enslaved to the world and more enslaved to Christ. You had some.
Oh yeah, there was some when they were when this letter was addressing the tea population. I was thinking of the Guidestones as well, but Harry Kissinger, because he's such a evil man and he's been around way too long. But he had said some things about depopulation. I'm just going to read a few quotes.
Okay.
One is, depopulation should be the highest priority of foreign policy towards the third world. Depopulation should be I just read that one. Hold on. World population needs to be decreased by 50%. Power is the ultimate aphrodisiac, and the elderly are useless eaters.
Wow.
And then the other one is that who controls the money controls the world.
Nice guy, Henry. Nice guy. But he's truly a globalist, an elitist. He's not a fallen angel. He's one of the ones that are being used by that. He's one of the puppets. He's one of the shields. Just like the majority of politicians are. Wow. Okay, I think that's going to conclude it.
Alrighty.
All right.
I wanted to read a scripture in. The first one is John 12:46 about Jesus being the light, because you read all this dark stuff and you're thinking, we're doomed and blah blah blah. But Jesus came to save the lost, save us out of the darkness. And Jesus says, I am come a light into the world, that whosoever believes on me should not abide in darkness. And the other scripture that I really like is found in Colossians 1:13, and it says, I'll read from 12. Giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, who has delivered us from the power of darkness and has translated us into the kingdom of his dear Son.
Yes.
So we live in light, not in darkness. Yeah. We don't have to live in fear. This stuff, it reminds me of the old story in the Old Testament, when they were building the wall, and then you had the enemies coming. Oh, you can't build a wall. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And he wrote a letter, and
Yeah.
But ultimately, God prevailed, and they did build that wall. So the enemy is like a roaring lion. That's all he has is a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
And a lot of his threats and his arrogance is just a shield that he uses.
Yeah. For those who are not under that umbrella, of Christ, you're flapping out there. I mean, you're head on, fully exposed to this stuff, and you can't resist it. It's impossible. Even if you're aware of it, you can't. But I'd like the way you ended it and put the light in there, because once again, to reiterate, our purpose here is not to create fear or to have a fear porn show, or just talk about the sexy Illuminati and all this stuff. It's to make awareness, and I think it's very practical, like that financial situation. We know it's hard to get out of debt. It's hard to get your finances together. But I know for a fact, I don't just believe this, I know for a personal fact, that if you dedicate that to God, your finances, and you say, God, I don't want to be part of the Illuminati world, and I don't want to owe no man nothing, and I don't want to be enslaved with debt. Help me get out. Give me the wisdom to get out. He will guide your paths.
That's right.
He will make a way. It may not be in a week, and it may not be in 2 weeks, and it may not be in 5 years, but he will make a way that eventually you will get out of that enslavement.
He will teach you a new lifestyle.
He will. He will. And it's the same thing with, honestly, it's worked with overeating, addictions, bad habits, things like that. It's worked with that. You're like, I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to be that guy.
That's right.
I don't, and he'll give you wisdom, and that's, from personal experience, I just wake up one day and go, honey, I know why I'm getting fat. I'm taking in too many calories. Wow, what did he figure? But he'll help you with these things if you give it to him, and you're serious about getting out of that enslavement and into this world type of thing. And I just use a couple of those things for examples, but it's really true. There's some things like, property taxes, or what he calls it, land rents, ground rents. I don't know how you can get out of that. I don't know how you can ever not do that. But the Lord will certainly sustain you with the finances to pay your ground rent. He'll protect you. And we don't have to worry about these guys, and we don't have to worry about the Antichrist and the mark of the beast and all that stuff, because we're children of light. We're not accepting that nonsense. This is so that we're aware of their intent and their thinking, right, so that we're not ignorant of the schemes of Satan, so that we could recognize these things in the media and in the entertainment, in the news.
Especially if you know what they're marketing, the commercials and the things in the world that kind of entice you, like, ooh, this and this and that. If you know what their intention is, then you can make better decisions and make better, choose better options for yourself and your family. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the Bible is our roadmap. Yes. And so that's why it's important to get into the Bible and pray.
And you bring up a good point, because you could be watching QVC, hey, I want to buy that new Dyson vacuum cleaner or whatever. I don't care if it's $400, and you're impulse buying this stuff. It's not that you're going to, you're committing a sin and you're going to die and go to hell. It's that you're enslaving yourself into a world system that Christ intends you to be free from. That's right. That's what this is. So when you're absolutely right. When you're aware of these things, you can go, wait a minute. I remember that podcast. I remember KAPOW's reading this, what their intent is. I'm not going to fall for this. The other thing, one thing that just drives me nuts is when you watch mainstream news media. I don't care if it's CNN, Fox. I won't watch NBC. I'd rather put a fork in my head. They're so ridiculous. They're not even. Never mind. But when you watch any of these news shows, I hate point counterpoint when they talk over each other. Drives me nuts. I don't mind two people debating if one person has the mic and then they give their deal and then the other guy goes for it and back and forth. I don't mind that. But you watch all these pundits and they'll get 4 of them and they all talk at the same time. And it drives me nuts. Well, what you're just reading here, what we just read you back in 1999, that's part of the conflict, to create confusion and conflict.
Yeah, they want to suck you up into a frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they do the whole racist thing.
Yes.
You know, and where they're siding with the wrong person because of his color and stuff.
Yes.
That's all really just to irritate you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get irritated and you allow yourself to get angry and then more angry, then you are more apt to lash out.
Mm-hmm.
You see, they're enticing your flesh.
Yes.
Is what they're doing. That's what they want you to do. They want us to riot. They want us to hate the blacks and the Jews and the you know
Mexicans
they want the racial wars.
Yeah.
You know, and they feed off of that,
Mm-hmm.
and it destroys your soul. But Jesus tells us we have to pray for our enemies and don't get sucked up in that in that whirlwind of emotion and anger. That's not what Christians or Christ followers are supposed to do.
Mm-mm.
You know, we're supposed to be of peace and of love.
Yes. And when you do that, when you get all emotional and all wrapped up in these issues that they've created,
Mm-hmm.
you're not concentrating on the real issues of your spiritual nature,
Mm-hmm.
of refining your character to be like the character of God,
Mm-hmm.
the Galatians 5 stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the spirit of holiness. And you're certainly not operating in any gifts of grace
Mm-hmm.
to other people. You're not praying for their headache.
Mm-mm.
You're not praying for the loss of their son or daughter or their mother or father recently.
Mm-hmm.
You're not praying for them. You're not upholding them. You're not
in the right mind.
No, because
you're not thinking in the spiritual anymore.
No.
You've got the carnal mind now.
Exactly, because you're worried about the Mexicans climbing over the wall and taking your jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I understand security. I understand borders. I understand all that, but this stuff is created to make conflict, and you have to be aware of what they're trying to do to you. I mean, I talked a little bit about the flat Earth people. I mean, this is incredible. We've listened to dozens.
Mm-hmm.
We listened to dozens of YouTube videos. Listen to watch.
So stupid. They make no sense whatsoever.
They're bizarre people, and what's so bizarre about it is they actually believe it's true. They're under like a hypnotic delusion. I honestly believe that, and it's a demon. Their brain went dead. But the so-called Christians that are supporting this, dude, they get upset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they get upset and start calling people names and just getting hateful if you attack them for believing being a flat earther type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I read some of these rants, you know, these rants, and I'm like, this dude where's the character of Christ in this quote unquote Christian dude, you know? But they're all wrapped up in a debate that makes little difference to anything for eternal salvation, not only for yourself, but for your neighbor.
Mm-hmm. You know, we're reminded of James 4, where it says, "But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. The wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in the peace of them that make peace."
Wow.
It says they're all right there.
It says it right there, and that's what we have to concentrate on instead of this other nonsense.
And that's what this show is all about, and what we're going to try to cover the next couple of weeks, is just to inform you and to educate you and to show you what the intent of the enemy is. Because his intent is, first of all, to take your soul with him to hell. And whether you are saved or not, that's what his intention is. And if you are saved, he wants to make you ineffective, and he wants to turn you away from God.
Yeah. He wants to get you to take your hand off the plow, or be a soldier in the army and just turn around and go hide in the tent and let other people fight the war. You know,
and that's not what God wants for us.
No, it's not.
So
yeah, remember, we're going to go through all this stuff every week. We'll talk about the Georgia Guidestones. If you're not familiar with that, that's fascinating, the history of that and what it says. The Agenda 21, which is very real. So when you hear terms like sustainable energy, star energy, sustainable environment. You hear certain terms from your councilmen and your government and things like that. You'll know where it came from. Mm-hmm. It's not just a bunch of environmentalists either. It's very satanic. Agenda 21. 21 goals of Illuminati, Committee of 300. And then, like I said, the coup de grace is the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. It's a hard read, though. It's a hard read because it's written in 1901, mm-hmm. published in 1901. It's not an easy read. So we'll go over it the best we can. But that's probably the grandfather of all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of more other documents. We might add some as we keep going because I know somebody listening is like, hey, what about fill in the blank? And they'll send it to us or something. I'd also like, I want to thank one of our listeners, Stephen. But I'm sorry if I mispronounce your last name. Bakandi. I'm sorry, Stephen. You know I know who you are. I just don't pronounce your last name.
We can't pronounce it.
And but Stephen sent me the name of the Twilight Zone episode I was talking about on Freedom Friday, and it's called.
And we saw it too.
Yeah, we got it on Netflix and we watched it. Oh, it's so good. It's called "The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street." Mm-hmm. It's from season 1 of the Twilight Zone. The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. I would even like to play clips of that because that's so good. Because it is about give them their bread and their circuses, and they'll be fine. Take away their bread and their circuses, and watch them kill each other. You know, about another power controlling, Americana or anybody else in the world that just is clueless that there's another power controlling them. All right, Ms. KAPOW, you got anything to add?
No, I don't think so.
What kind of voice was that?
Oh, I don't know.
Sounds like W.C. Fields.
There you go.
Okay. Do you know he was an Illuminati master?
Really?
I don't know. I made it up.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
He wrote a document. Okay, folks.
Ciao, babies.
Heard the stories of men who have died in their glory, of their spiritual lives, heard the teachings of men who have lied. But all I know is Jesus Christ and Him crucified for me, about the sins that I did commit, for which Jesus died on that tree. Seen the priests and white-robed masters claim that they knew it all. Seen them try to climb the fence into heaven, but they always fall. Crucified for me, about the sins that I did commit, for which Jesus died on that tree. I've heard the music from the rock and roll stars, heard of spaceships that might come from Mars, fancy speeches from those leaders of ours, heard the teachings of men who still lie. But all I know is Jesus Christ and Him crucified for me.